Good morning, everyone. How's everyone today? Oh my gosh, it's so great to be back at the Hilton Miami downtown. I'm so excited. One of our biggest events, well, our biggest event of the year normally is our hourly employee recognition awards. It's called the INKEY Awards. And the last one we had before COVID, we had 950 in this ballroom for a great big luncheon. And by the way, the executive chef is French. The food is fabulous. His name is Didier Pouzier. And after this, I'm going to give him a hug. So thank you all. I can't see anyone, but I guess that's normal, right? So we're really, and I have a great panel I'm really excited about and what I want to do. I'm just going to get my little notes here. Oh, I'd like to thank, I don't know if Fred Bean is here, but I'd like to thank Fred Bean, a friend of mine, and he actually referred me to this conference, which led me to this wonderful panel. So I wanted to thank Fred. He's the chairman and CEO of Rebel Travel Corporation and attending the conference, obviously. So I'm going to reach out to each of my panelists. How are you, Leonie, Steve, Kimberly?
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Doing well.
And just really describe briefly where you were pre-COVID professionally and when everything seemed to shut down, how your role evolved to accommodate the immediate needs of our hospitality industry. I'll start with you, Kimberly.
Yes, good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming out. Thank you for having me on this panel. You're probably wondering, where does Miami-Dade College fit in with all of this? Well, I'm actually the person who encourages the students who are pursuing degrees in hospitality to go out into this amazing world. So right now, to answer your first question, I'm the academic advisor at Miami-Dade College. We're basically right down the street. I work at Wolfson campus. There's 8 campuses. This is the largest college in the nation. So I'm the academic advisor there. Prior to coming to Miami-Dade College, I've been in Miami, working for Miami-Dade College for 2 years now. The majority of my time has been remote. It's been interesting. Prior to that, I lived in Los Angeles for 3 years. I run a program for students at the University of Southern California, and I also have my own success coaching business. So my life is centered around higher education and advising and guiding students to achieve success.
Thank you. So Leonie, would you like to share with us? I remember Leonie's general manager is on my board of directors, and I'll never forget that gloomy day in March. I don't know the day because I don't think I want to remember the day, where I had to call an emergency board meeting, a Zoom. That was the first Zoom that I had. I didn't know what Zoom was until then, and looking at Leonie's boss, all the general managers on this call, because we knew like the next day or two that the county mayor was going to close the hotels. So Leonie, I admire all the HR directors and managers, and just share with us what you remember, what took place, and how you were feeling.
Good morning again. My name is Leonie Timothy. I'm right down the street at the Intercontinental Miami. I've been with the company for over 25 years. I'm also on the Academy of Hospitality and Tourism board, and also the program chair for the South Florida Human Resource Association. And actually, COVID happened to us in dramatic form. So we had the Super Bowl. We were a host hotel for the Super Bowl. And immediately after the Super Bowl, we actually had an anime group. And that's when we start seeing the mask, because a lot of individuals came from Asian countries. And then we had a surprise guest. Maybe, I'm not sure if it was a surprise guest, but we had an important guest at the hotel, a president. And I remember I was conducting general orientation that day, and I went to treat them to a Starbucks, and the GM came by, and he said, "Oh, I just situated the president." And 2 days later, we found out that that particular president, his prime minister, tested positive for COVID. And it was the president of Brazil, and his team were there. And so that was on a Thursday. Then we hear that the city mayor, who is also at the hotel, tested positive for COVID. So here we all are, and we were at the, what do you call it, like the center for COVID. So Glenn, probably when you had that meeting, he was quarantined. And I was wondering, should I quarantine because I saw Glenn? So soon after, the business cancellations were quickly coming. It started slowly, but before we shut down, there were cancellation after cancellation. And I don't think we had a choice but to shut down. So it really happened to us in dramatic form at the hotel.
I completely forgot about the president and the mayor and all of that. You brought back bad memories. So Steve is like my newest friend, because I've known Leonie for years, and Kimberly and I had a lot of great webinars together over the past couple of years, and I'm delighted to have Steve as an Allied Upgrade member, and just a great company. But share with us what was going on in your life the minute COVID hit.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy, and thank you everybody for attending and for having us. So, a little background on me. As Wendy mentioned, my name is Steve Esky. I'm the co-founder CEO of Upshift, and Upshift is a mobile-based staffing platform geared towards hourly workers within the hospitality and the hotel sector. So as you can imagine, with COVID, we saw a change. And really, the whole impact of COVID, we started feeling it, I would say, late February. So we had just launched in Austin, Texas, and Atlanta. And at the time, the South by Southwest conference was getting set up, and we had a tremendous amount of shifts being posted by new clients in the market. Same with Atlanta. And there's a lot of talk about canceling the conference, the South by Southwest conference. And at the time, I feel like COVID was a known commodity, but people were kind of downplaying the impact. And I think a lot of people were anchoring to prior pandemics or epidemics that had come from overseas that, oh, I'll never make it here in the US. But everybody was very scared the impact it would have. And the very first time that it occurred to me that this is going to actually have an impact here in the US was actually at the Intercontinental in Atlanta, in Buckhead. It was the banquets manager had told us that he had seen a lot of events canceled in the next 2 weeks. And we're like, wow. And he had emailed me and he misspelled coronavirus. And I'm like, oh, so this coronavirus is going to definitely have an impact. And that was late February. So that was roughly when we started kind of changing our strategy of making sure that everybody's healthy. And we've got tens of thousands of what we call upshifters, our workers on our platform, and implementing protocols and masks and whatnot. So at that point, we saw a dramatic shift in the landscape, and the thought process was, as a company, how are we going to weather this? What are we going to do? A lot of people are talking about making cuts. We did not. Fundamentally, we actually invested more into the company and our product and our team. Being a very asset-light, technology-driven company, we were able to do that because we knew at some point this wouldn't last forever. And even in Q4 of last year, some of our clients, more food service-oriented, actually saw quite an uptick. In hotels, certain hotel sectors did see an uptick as well. So it was an interesting time, to say the least, and we learned a lot. And you know, from a company perspective, I think we came out of that as a much better company because we did a lot of things to really prime us for this year, which has been the complete opposite. It's almost like, I don't know if it was Einstein or whoever said, you know, for every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. So, you know, seeing a 90% drop off in business almost overnight, to compare that to this year, where we've seen almost 1,100% increase in business in the course of 3 quarters, has been very interesting.
It's amazing. Kimberly, so how, and I, you know, working closely with Miami-Dade College and the students, we actually did a virtual training, a COVID training for the students at Miami-Dade College. That was really amazing, and we gave the employees certificates for that, so that they could show the guests and their coworkers that they were trained on the guidelines that the county mayor had set forth. So how was it to go from classroom to Zoom? How were the students engaged? You know, how was that?
A massive shift, as you can imagine, because in education, it was like flicking the switch, like literally overnight. And I think this was like around March 11th time, and we get the notification, we're just like, that's it, the campus is closing, everything is going remote. And as you can imagine, we didn't have things in place. We just did not. I mean, we have a software program called Blackboard that the students use, obviously, to go, you know, to input if they have to, you know, that's where they see their grades. But before that, they weren't submitting their work online. You know, everything was in a class, right? This is what we're used to. So here we are flicking the switch like, oh my gosh, we need all these programs immediately. So it was about a week that we weren't with the students. Obviously, we had to get programs in place, software systems downloaded, and just, you know, all hands on deck. I mean, it was nonstop. So we all went remote, and the professors were loading up all their content, working with the IT department. Thank God for IT. That's all I can say. I mean, I don't know where anybody would be without IT, without you know, our computers and technology. I mean, technology obviously is you know, the reason that we are here today. So emotionally, as you can imagine, for these students and everybody, it was absolutely exhausting. So for my position as an advisor, and ironically, we recently had moved here, and I had put together a program for the students at the University of Southern California online already. So I must have had this vision of a few years that everything's going to go virtual. So I knew all about the Zooms ahead of time. I've been doing that. All my content was, you know, already uploaded into my website. So for me, moving into an advisor position that I had to use technology, I was, you know, ahead of the curve, which was great. So I was able to jump in. I knew how to use Zoom. And at the time, the college just had the platform where you're using Microsoft. And so we were just using Microsoft Teams. So we weren't even allowed to use Zoom. But because I've already had Zoom established for students out in the West Coast, I was able to jump in and use that for my students here. So as an advisor, basically, we have given the students the option to, you know, meet online, right? And it was, we're sending out emails, I'm doing text messaging. You know, everybody in Miami, I think, has my cell phone number. So, you know, I have students texting me all the time, but, you know, you had to do what you had to do. And it was more than, you know, I'm only getting paid a certain amount of hours. It was like, it didn't even matter. Like, we just wanted to help these students because, as you can imagine, so many things going on in their mind. And the biggest thing is, and you know, this is the reason I'm here, is because I work for the hospitality department at Miami-Dade College. When all this pandemic hit, the hospitality department was completely separate. We also have a culinary school. Okay, so we were completely separate. As I'm sitting here now today, we're one unit, and that's because of reasons of, and we'll probably get to this. The biggest thing with students was, why am I even pursuing this degree, right? The first industry that was hit the hardest is hospitality. We're living in Miami. I mean, they're seeing everything crumble down, and they're like, why am I wasting my money? Why am I wasting all my time? You know, what's going to be here for me? So what I had to do as an advisor is project forward, like, you know, had explained to the students that there's going to be other jobs that are not your typical jobs of today, or you don't even know of, right? Now we're going to be moving into social media positions in hotels, different types of marketing positions, different types of event planning. You know, everything has changed, and everything now has technology wrapped around it. So that's where, as a department, you know, we are looking into crossing those interdisciplinary lines, right? You know, working with the business school, you know, working with the entrepreneurs and the tech industry, because obviously in hotels, look at how many hotels now that you're going and you're checking yourself in virtually, right? You have your own little kiosk. So things are changing, and people in the hospitality industry, as students, need to realize that there are different jobs, but there are different skills needed. for these jobs. So it was a change in mindset, to be honest. And with my background, I have a degree in school and mental health counseling, and that's why I had opened up a success coaching business years ago. So with all of that, I was able to really meet the needs emotionally, right? Because everybody was in disarray. I mean, I was asked by students, how are you coping with it? And, I had to find an answer for these students because it was really difficult for me to cope with it. Because here I am at home, I'm answering emails at midnight, text messages. So it was a shift of your mind and knowing that, yes, my role at Miami-Dade College is an academic advisor to help hospitality students gain success for their future career in hospitality. Well, here we are in a pandemic, and the biggest thing is they're a mess. And what do you do? But the first thing is to help them with their mind, get them back where they need to be, have them focus, but also realize that crisis breeds on opportunity. There's lots of opportunities that come out of crisis. It's not all horrible, right? I had to take this negative, turn it into a positive, and realize that we are living in a world that you have to be creative, you have to think out of the box, because if you want to stand out, this is the next generation on the horizon. Also, I work with, my major population is Gen Zs. If anybody knows anything about the Gen Zs, they have an 8-second attention span. So your app is amazing because that's what students are used to. So we have to go to the needs, right? And also the wants of the population that you're working with. So my biggest takeaway through this and how I got my students to the next level, I had to meet their needs emotionally first, and then realize, okay, we can take steps after that.
I think we all need a retreat, don't you? I mean, I have 2 employees and millennials, and I said months ago, I said, I'm going to set up a retreat for us. And they were thinking like a spa day and, spa retreat. We haven't had it yet, but I think that, there's a lot of pressure for the operators, from the owners. I think that we really all need to figure out what it is that we need and do it, because I think it's really important. None of us have taken a break, right? I'm sure none of you in the audience have taken a break. And I know, the challenges that, Leonie, as working in a hotel, has. And we did do some Baptist Health. We worked with Baptist Health on mental health workshops. But share with us, Leonie, as well, the whole mental health aspect of, if you saw so many employees, their lives were crumbling. They had families. They couldn't, it was just, and a lot of couples, a lot of parents both work in hospitality. I mean, it wasn't just hospitality, but hospitality was probably hit the hardest.
Yes, definitely. When we had to technically close the hotel, it wasn't closed completely, but when we had to lay off and furlough individuals, we had a software that we used to communicate with our team members. And it was a paid software, but with everything that was going on, we couldn't continue with that. So we found an app. We found an app that was a free app, and we transitioned to that. And now it was, how do we find all of our team members to get them on this app, or find as many of them as we can to let them know about the courses at Miami-Dade, or to let them know, okay, you can go here for assistance. Just keeping contact, maintaining communication with them. There are many who weren't on the app, so we had to call. Actually, I was furloughed myself. I was, once we had everything situated, I was furloughed myself, but considering I had a great relationship with so many of the employees, throughout my furlough, I was all day, every day. I felt like I was still working. And I told you, I was still speaking with the employees. They were concerned. They were worried. They were worried about paying their bills, about family, their health. When is the hotel going to reopen? Constantly, I was getting that comment. And someone asked there about encouraging team morale, just maintaining that communication, meeting that individual where they are, and not and looking at their lives. What are they going through? And I think within the hospitality industry, we are people persons. But when you think about it, we're mainly people persons for the guests. Sometimes with the employees themselves, we're a little bit more tougher and harder on them. And meeting them where they are mean scheduling, that flexibility that your company has. Meeting with them, finding out what's going on at home. Many people have lost family members, or they themselves have been ill, and they're still going through the impact of it. They're still facing the impact. I shared with you all about the example of, there was a team member, she's been working throughout the pandemic. And recently, she came to us and she said, I can't. My family life, I need to fix my family life. My spouse, my children, and I'm going to quit. And we're talking about, how can we retain, engage and attract talent during a great resignation? One of it is, don't lose employees. Those who you have, who've been faithful to you, who've stuck with you, who've been with you throughout this whole time, what can we do to be more flexible with them? Flexible schedules, flexible. So I said to her, is it the hotel? Is it your management team? She says, no, I love the hotel. I love the people I work with. You all have been there for me. You've developed me. You've given me opportunities to grow. So I said, well, if we give you the time, will that help? And I offered her a month or two. I said, look, here's what we're doing at this time. We have 2 new management trainees, and they can help in the role that you are playing. We can give you the time. And look, you don't have to make a decision now. Go back to work. Have you spoken to your manager about resigning? Go back and talk to them if you have. And if you're willing to take the time, we'll give it to you. And she accepted it, and she appreciated that. And so there's meeting with the individual where they are.
I wonder, and now this segues into what, Steve's company just really, when came to Miami, and really everybody that we introduced Steve to, they were like taking notes. I know that you're doing really well, and I think Steve's company is such a great solution for just that, for that story Leonie shared. So Steve, do your thing.
Yeah. So I guess going back to the COVID times, we saw a massive shift in the hourly workforce. A lot of people just left the industry completely. That was one shift, obviously, which everybody was aware of. But the rationale for it was always very interesting to me. And as we started talking to the hourly workers, we were asking them, why aren't you working? Because the labor participation rate dropped to the lowest, I think, in the US in history, or one of the lowest. And there was kind of 3 main points. Obviously, several people were afraid of getting COVID. The other component was enhanced unemployment benefits. I mean, it was pretty compelling to not have to work and earn more than you were as you worked. And then the third one we saw, especially with the female population, was childcare. A lot of schools were shut down, and the women out there had to care for the children. So they couldn't come back into the workforce. The other interesting shift that we saw was this migration into other sectors. A lot of people in the hospitality, hourly portion of the hospitality sector, found themselves in the warehousing and retail world. Because during COVID, I'm sure everybody here started using online shopping and e-commerce a lot more. Well, those e-commerce brands are powered by warehouses and fulfillment centers, and they saw a huge uptick in business, and they needed a lot of labor, a lot of staffing to power those warehouses. And the wages started climbing. And fast forward to this year, we've seen across the board the hourly wages across basically the entire hourly sector go up anywhere from 30 to 40%. And what happened was the hourly workforce basically congealed into one. No longer as a hotel can you just think myopically what other hotels are paying in a market. You have to think, what are the warehouses, what are the retailers paying? Because a lot of these hospitality and hotel workers found themselves in that sector, and the hours are better, and they're making $17, $18, $19 an hour, whereas before they're making $10, $11 an hour. And trying to bring them back at the pre-COVID wages is not going to work. So that was an interesting shift. And with us, Upshift, you know, our whole shtick is about flexibility. You onboard with us once, you can work where you want, when you want, for who you want, because you're going to see all the opportunities right there on the app. And that really resonated with a lot of people. And we tend to find that we attract a very large pool of people that historically probably wouldn't work a lot of the hourly shifts that we have on our app, but because maybe they work part-time at a bar, restaurant, or maybe they're a student or a mother, they've got a couple of days they can make extra money or work, but your traditional staffing agencies or employers, they're not going to be able to facilitate those schedules. But with us, you know, you come on, you can work, and we've seen a lot of people utilize that as a tool to make supplemental income, and it's worked quite well for our clients. Now, the other interesting component about flexibility, you know, there's the working flexibly, but also the fractionalization of the 40-hour work week. Historically, and this is kind of goes back to the old Industrial Revolution mindset, you know, employers want people to show up, work 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, but that has changed a lot, and there's only a certain percentage of the population that can do that. And what we've seen super successful is taking that 40-hour work week and chopping it up into 5 single-day shifts, maybe 8-hour, 6-hour shifts. And if you think of the labor market as a pyramid, the top portion of the pyramid, the smallest portion, represents people that can work 40 hours a week with very little notice. But the second you start baking in this flexibility, this fractionalized shifts, you start availing yourself to 30x the population, meaning there's a lot of people that can work maybe Monday and Tuesday that can't work 40 hours a week. And a lot of these hotels, hospitality operators, even just general employers, were going in looking for 40-hour a week workers. There just wasn't any out there. But there's thousands that can pick up shifts on a fractionalized basis, and that's one of the things that our technology enables, and it's been working quite well for a lot of our clients, especially now coming out of COVID. There's pockets of demand across the nation, across various sectors, and staffing is, to some extent, quite hard, and there's a lot of people now that know that staffing is short, so it's very much a labor, a supply beneficial market. You know you can find a job if you want it out there, so people are being very picky and they're demanding higher wages, and as hotels come back into the market for labor, they're facing wages that have gone up tremendously since pre-COVID, and they're having to compete now with the plethora of other employers, including fulfillment, retail, and distribution, which has come into the market in a very tremendous way. So it's kind of a rambling explanation, but that's some of the things that we're seeing in the market. And you know, I always tell a lot of hotel operators to start thinking about their roles and their positions to bake in a lot more flexibility. By baking in flexibility, you can bring in a lot more people that you historically probably wouldn't be able to.
And I think, and I don't know if you're already working with Miami-Dade College too, because there's a lot of opportunity to work with the students too, don't you think, Kimberly?
Oh,
think,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And, you know, it was amazing because last year, like, my best friend was LinkedIn. And I tell all my students, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, make sure you get a LinkedIn profile. You know, I certainly help students create them. Because, you know, back to the question, how do you keep the morale going? Okay, so now we're in these remote classes. You know, this is all new to the students. It's new to everybody. Everybody's getting exhausted, right? So we need to boost the morale. So what I did was I went to LinkedIn as the advisor, and I thought I need to do some weekly, like, little webinars, guest speakers. So who to reach out to, just try to find people in hospitality industry, no matter what they are, on LinkedIn. And that's what I did. I reached out to just anybody in the hospitality space. And the coolest thing about it was now I can reach out to anybody around the world, right? So I was using my contacts on the West Coast, East Coast, and I would not just bring in people who work in hotels. I would bring in like their wellness director of some of these hotels have. I was bringing in, fitness people who work in the gyms, something to, enhance. It's not all about just your typical hotelier, right? It's not about just working at the front desk. Again, I was trying to bring in that piece of trying to keep the morale going, letting them know that we're all in this together, listening to what other people are seeing and hearing in different parts of the world. At the same time, letting the students know that there are these interesting jobs, right? You can be like a wellness director of, a wellness resort. They need fitness directors for the fitness programs. I was bringing in people in the sports hospitality industry, right? That's big. A lot of times we forget about that. People who are working in the arenas, for whether it's basketball or football or whatever. So I was bringing in a different group that really seemed to connect with the students. Again, it was them hearing about what's going on in different parts of the world. At the same time, they're thinking, wow, this is really interesting. I think maybe I'm gonna stay in this industry. So yes, that's how I kept the morale going, is trying to get these guest speakers. So anybody who's out there in the audience today, please connect with me or find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. Reach out to me because would love to have you on a panel. I had done our first virtual conference, and then fast forward to this April. We were like, okay, we were going to do an in-person conference the year before, and we're like, that's not happening. So we did our first virtual conference, and it went very well. But as you know, when you do virtual conference, do any sort of conference, the logistic that goes into it. But it was, okay, you get all these guest speakers, and you just hope and pray that they all show up, right? Because not everybody's in your town. So it went over well, but if you're not using LinkedIn, I encourage you to use it because, again, it's a real powerful tool. I encourage my students to use it, and that's your now professional resume is on LinkedIn. So that's how we kept the morale going, and also it just students just needed to realize that we're there for them. Right, again, and it was all about, we're in this together, we're all gonna get through this together, and also at the same time, just giving them this experiences that they didn't even know really existed, which really has helped the students. And because the other thing too, here we are with technology, and I feel that the students are getting smarter. I think we've all gotten smarter, right? We all know technology a lot more than what we did a year ago. So our biggest thing then was retention, because of course their industry is crumbling around them. They're thinking, this is not gonna be for me, I gotta get out. So we lost some students, just like every campus across this nation. So we had to find ways to retain these students. Another thing was students were finding out that they can register for a lot of online schooling they didn't even know existed because they wanted to get their gen eds out of the way. So now they're enrolling in these other schools, and we're trying to keep them. So again, it's back to just keeping the morale going, letting them know that we're there for them, but also we had to present hospitality to them in a different fashion, right? And we needed these extraordinary people who reached back to me on LinkedIn for them to present to them like, no, here's some other cool things that are going on. This is where we're gonna be, just hang in there. And it's also those connections that students were able to make that they use then as, just as far as being inspired by these people in industry, and they were able to connect with them. So again, it was the whole connection and networking. So it was just like these virtual networking, and that's basically what we have to do to, keep this hospitality industry rolling. Is again, it's about us. It's about being able to connect on more of an emotional level, because that's what I think everybody needs right now. And I don't want to take up any more time, but our biggest thing that was lost during this pandemic is soft skills. Here we are behind these computer screens every single day, And it's easy to read body language in person, but now you're behind a computer. So I tell my students, we're revisiting soft skills. How do you portray teamwork across a computer screen? How do you portray empathy? And these are the things that are lost, but these are the things that need to be brought back into our everyday lives. So that's something I leave you all here with, is just revisit your soft skills and realize that this is the time that we have to brush up on some that we might have lost, because people are looking for that.
Yeah, I was thinking about one of the questions about hotel operations shifting to contactless. One of the departments that kind of broke my heart a little bit is some of the concierge desks are gone in some of the hotels, and I think that's really sad, because the concierges are so important to our industry, and I like to talk to a human being when I walk into a hotel, and when I'm traveling, I ask them where their favorite restaurant is, and there's just so many. It's just such a great a role in the hotel lobby in general. Do you have any comments on? Okay, so we have a wage comment.
Well, with the contactless, I think there are certain things that are here to stay, like the way housekeeping, clean, entering the room, and so on. Possibly the concierge, but I think that's a position that could be merged with other positions, because in certain types of hotels, that's a critical role. But there are some things that are going to go right back, I think. The personal touch, I know that there are some hotels where they've already removed the glass panels at front desk. So, and some of the corporate and some of the owners are already, they're already removing some of the rules that they put in place because of COVID. And I think as time goes by and we become more comfortable and there's less COVID-19 out there, and for me, I look at history as well, and I think about the 1918 flu, and I see how, people reverted back to being social. Think of the Roaring '20s. I think once we have things under control and we are, it's stable, we feel safe, I think we're going to go back to a different normal. I think we're going to revert to some of the areas. Other than wage increase, other benefits, PTO, 401k, I don't think those benefits are negatively impacted. I think because the employees are demanding more, I think those areas are also either remaining the same or improving as well. So I don't see us diminishing those benefits because of COVID. Moving forward, how can hospitality adapt? We need to become an industry that's ahead of the ball game. And working in hospitality for so long, we have our ways, and sometimes we're stuck in our ways. And being in South Florida, we have other industries that are coming on board. We have a lot of tech industries, and these are, creative, innovative industries. And we're going to lose employees to those industries if we don't change our ways, our styles, become more creative in the way we think. We were talking about scheduling. One of the things that we did, because it's so difficult to find employees, we participated in this summer program, internship program for high school students. And there were 3 of them that fell in love with the hotel. and they wanted to continue working with us. You don't know. I receive texts every single day. How can we work here? And now they're 15 years old, can only work, 15 hours a week, but they were determined to work at the hotel. So what did we do? We made it happen. We need employees, and we have some passionate young individuals who are willing to work for us. Now, Steve mentioned Monday through Friday. Steve, I'm sorry to tell you, hotel, Monday through Sunday. But we have these high school students who are willing to work Saturday and Sunday, whereas we're getting applicants who are telling us they don't want to work Saturday and Sunday. So why not hire the high school students who can work Saturday and Sunday and give the regular employees Monday through Friday? So just finding different ways to do things. Change. Don't stick in the old way. And realize that we're all impacted. So we need to increase the raises, and it can't be department by department. We have to take drastic measures. And that's what I think. Think outside of the box and become creative and find other resources that are out there.
Isn't that fabulous? I think that's amazing. Thank you, Leonie. Miami and Florida continue to be #1. I have to give a plug for Miami and Florida. Miami, #1 in the country. And we're so excited to have Formula One next year for 10 years, a 10-year, contract. And then we always love Ultra Music Festival. It's one of our favorites. And they're going to be long-term as well. We have a beautiful Miami Beach Convention Center. The conventions are booking for next year. We're seeing a lot of good bookings coming in. And international travel will be back. So we are on the road. And thank you, all of you, for sharing your inner thoughts and what you do professionally to help this industry. And we're very excited to have all of you here. Enjoy the rest of your time here in Miami. And thank you so much, HEDNA, for hosting us.